Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're going to discuss the controversy surrounding emulators that are adopting anti-piracy measures. We'll cover issues related to the DRM that was supposed to be implemented in Citron, Green Dev's strict stance toward the community, the wave of bans across at least 2 projects, and most importantly, which of these measures are unnecessary, since they might harm users more than they actually provide useful benefits or features. If you want to buy original games while saving a lot, check out Instant Gaming, the digital store that sells games for various platforms, such as PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Get games of all genres with discounts of up to 95%. You'll also find a variety of gift cards and credits for other services. You can pay for your order through your credit card on a website with a 4.7 rating on Trustpilot. You're buying games directly from Instant Gaming, not from other retailers. If you encounter any issues, Instant Gaming offers 24/7 support. And this month, Instant Gaming is offering a great discount on the newly released Monster Hunter Wilds, with up to 51% off, ensuring the lowest historical price for the game. Check out the price comparison with Steam's pricing. What are you waiting for to save? Links in the description. Let's start by talking about Citron. Recently, one of the project's decisions ended up being one of the final nails in the coffin. If you haven't heard yet, Citron has come to an end. The remaining developers are no longer able to keep the project active, and on top of that, they are mentally exhausted due to the attacks they've received in recent days. Since I have friends involved in this situation, I won't go into too many details here. If you want more information, you can join the project's Discord server and check the pinned comments in the English chat. Now, let's talk about what really happened with Citron. Many of you may have noticed that the Discord community simply disappeared. In reality, this happened because you were banned. The reason? They implemented a verification system that required using an external application via a modded Nintendo Switch. If this verification was not completed within 48 hours, the account was automatically banned. This measure affected nearly everyone, including me, even though I was a moderator. As a result, the project, which once had over 16,000 members, was reduced to about 140 people. This decision caused an uproar. After all, if you didn't do anything wrong, why should you be banned? Besides, since when does owning a modded Switch make someone less of a pirate? There are several legal inconsistencies in this process. And worse, by providing your verification data, sensitive information from your console may have ended up in third-party hands. Those familiar with the Xbox 360 scene know that certain details can even allow CPU keys to be rewritten and consoles to be unbanned. Right now, this isn't possible on the Switch, but ideally, this type of data should never be shared. As if that weren't enough, amid all this chaos, both Ryubing and Citron decided to share their lists of banned users. In other words, if you were banned from Citron, you were also automatically banned from Green Dev's fork. Some might think this was premeditated, and honestly, I do too. So, if you were affected by Citron's ban wave, it's likely you were also banned from Ryubing. In my case, it was even worse. I was manually banned just for being associated with Eden. Ryubing also adopted the same verification system as Citron. This means that to receive support, you need to prove that you own a verified Switch, which also means handing over your console data to Ryubing. To make matters worse, Green, the person behind Ryubing, even mocked the community. One of our Discord members, who was simply looking for a fix for one of their favorite games, was mentioned in several of their internal conversations. After a Reddit post, they identified it was the same person and banned them unfairly. And guess who was the first to implement this verification system? Yes, exactly the same project. The most recent case in this controversy involves Shad PS4. At the moment, I don't recommend updating to any version released after last Thursday. That's because the new versions have removed the emulator's ability to install PKG format games. Now, the team recommends that users copy their files directly from a jailbroken PlayStation 4. What do you think about this? Is it fair to say that the legality of emulators should be tied to jailbroken consoles, even though this is considered illegal in most parts of the world? If you've already updated Shad PS4, there's still a solution. Download an older version from at least last Wednesday. This way, you can have 2 installations, one updated version for running your games and one older version solely for installing them, which should never be updated. Finally, the first emulator to adopt this kind of policy was Azahar. They changed the entire structure to prevent opening .3ds files, claiming that this file format is directly linked to piracy. Fortunately, the solution is simple, just rename your library to the .cci extension. However, as reported by Alex Index on our Discord, some games may not work correctly, either due to being bad dumps or because of inconsistencies in the files. In these cases, you may need to re-download the game. In my opinion, all these implementations add no extra security to the projects and only make users' lives more difficult. In the end, the ones who suffer the most are those who just want to come home after a long day in play. It's like if PCSX2 suddenly required you to manually extract an ISO instead of simply opening the file as usual. I spoke with Edu, the owner of the Brazilian emulation channel Geekancia. In addition to creating content about emulators, he is also a lawyer. I asked him 2 questions. The first was, Edu, in your case, as a content creator focused on emulation and also as a lawyer, considering both Brazilian legislation and what you know about international piracy laws, do you think the actions of some emulators in making access or content installation more difficult make sense? He replied, hello to all the viewers watching this response. I'll be very clear in saying that, no, it doesn't make sense. To be honest, I won't even rely solely on a legal perspective in this case. In Brazil, we don't have specific legislation that directly addresses this topic. The law most commonly referenced when discussing this issue is Law 9.609/98, which deals with the intellectual property of computer software. Since an emulator is also software, this law can be applied, but it wasn't created specifically to regulate this subject. In general, the common understanding is that emulators, as open-source software, are not illegal as long as they do not contain, in whole or in part, code belonging to the original video game system. What is usually considered illegal and a form of piracy is the unauthorized sharing of ROM backups, digital games. However, when large companies, and here we have to mention Nintendo by name, file lawsuits against emulation groups, they don't usually base their cases on the sharing of games. In many instances, they treat the mere existence of the software as an intellectual property violation. In that sense, going back to the second part of your question, it seems to me that implementing measures that make it harder for users without the original console to use emulators wouldn't prevent a company from filing a lawsuit. After all, to these companies, the very existence of the emulator is already seen as a patent infringement. In my view, the only thing these policies achieve is weakening the community as a whole. The second question I asked was, do you think the whole Citron case could weaken the emulation scene in some way or lead to sensationalist media coverage that might push people away or reinforce the association between emulators and piracy? Edu replied, I can't predict exactly how the Citron case will impact the media's view of the emulation community. I imagine it will be in a negative way, of course, but the exact form and extent of that impact are impossible to determine. However, there is one thing I can say for certain, as it is already quite evident from recent events. The policies implemented by Citron's developers have drastically weakened their own community. They excluded and segregated a large group of users who previously supported the project, and in a way, they contributed to its downfall. This, of course, is without even mentioning the exposed situation that surfaced. But regardless of that, without an active community supporting the project, it had no future. In the end, sensationalist media will always exist, and unfortunately, everything that happened could very well serve as material for specific groups looking to weaken the emulation scene. For those in Brazil who want to support Edu, who has extensive knowledge of digital law, just follow his channel. The link will be in the description. I also spoke with Camille, but unfortunately, he didn't have time to answer my questions before I finished writing this script. Camille is very detail-oriented and definitely an interesting person, so I'll make a separate video with his responses next week. I'll also talk a bit about Citron, but before that, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Before we wrap up, I want to address the Citron controversy that so many of you have asked me to comment on. First of all, I ask that instead of believing any random Reddit post, you look for Camille's original post, which is pinned in my Discord in the English chat. I'll try to pin a link for you all. Well, as I already mentioned to Camille, out of everything that happened, I can say that I already knew about 80% of it. I was aware of the DRM being implemented to prevent people without a switch from accessing the emulator, but it was something I simply didn't want to believe, because it was clearly a self-destructive move. For those who don't know, the project fell apart after Camille was kicked out, allegedly because he tried to raise money for personal growth, either for his studies or to acquire new hardware. Just to clarify, he accepted device donations, so to me, it's clear that Camille wasn't in it just for the money. After that, Zepp got furious and first sent him a cease and desist, forcing Camille to spend some of his own money to get legal assistance. Then, an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, was sent to all moderators, preventing any of us, including me, Camille, and others, from speaking about the project without permission. In the days following the exposed, it was proven that the NDA was fake. The company that Zepp supposedly planned to establish to issue this document was never registered, meaning it was just a way to coerce us into silence, especially Camille. This was already abusive, but things got even worse. Now, before continuing, I want to clarify that this next part is not in Camille's exposed because it's something that happened to me, and he had no involvement whatsoever. On a fateful day, after the DRM was leaked, I was unfairly banned from the server, something I noticed as soon as I woke up. I want to make it clear that this is the first time I'm speaking about something I wasn't allowed to. During my time as a Citron moderator, I never shared links or builds, not even with my friends. I was always loyal to the project. So you might be wondering, if I wasn't the one who leaked the DRM, why was I banned? In reality, I was banned along with AlexIndex, who was indeed responsible for the leak. At no point was I questioned or investigated about it. I was simply banned. I find this childish, and the same thing happened to many other members of the server administration. Out of nowhere, random bans were happening without the person being questioned and with no proof of any wrongdoing. Moreover, Zephyron would always delegate this mess to his moderators, refusing to take responsibility. From the very beginning, I knew that Zep and Phoenix were the same person, and I was aware of the accusations of crimes, but I never had concrete proof. At one point, I even asked Zephyron if Jared's retirement had anything to do with the Yuzi case, and he denied it. Many times, Zep would show suspicious things, quickly delete them, or simply erase all his messages as if he were hiding something. I found this behavior extremely childish, but even so, I was concerned about his mental state. However, things escalated further when a screenshot surfaced of him speaking badly about me to Kimchi, one of the people behind Strato. I had issues with Kimchi in the past, but we sorted things out, and now everything is fine between us. Additionally, as I had already suspected, Citron's server crashes and issues, the so-called DDoS attacks, which even Mr. Sujano reported before later retracting in a video, were all staged. The goal was to cover up the project's internal problems. I didn't know this until Camille's exposed, when I asked him directly. And things got even worse. Zep joined Eden's Discord, Camille's new project, collected all the chat logs, and doxed the server in Citron's Discord. He also accused Eden of being an AI-generated emulator. That's ridiculous because I see the team working on the project all day, and they've already compiled builds for Android. If you're an emulation enthusiast, you've probably heard of names like Mr. Purple, AlexIndex, J. Pikachu, Pavel, whom I previously mentioned as a developer of a Yuzu build focused on modern games, and of course, Camille. I'm not asking you to trust Eden, just to wait for the project's release, test it, and form your own opinion. The remaining Citron team no longer has the capacity to make significant improvements. They had something in their hands, but now they are psychologically shaken, trying to deal with the mess. Given this, I highly doubt they'll even be able to fix a single bug. As for Ryubing, their actions were despicable, as I've mentioned before. They even insulted a member of our Discord and attacked me personally, calling me an AI content creator. I want to emphasize that I do not use AI to record gameplay. All comparisons are done manually, and only the voice is synthesized. Even YouTube's algorithm doesn't classify me as a dark AI channel, so there's no justification for these attacks. And the worst part, I wasn't the only target. They also disrespected the entire community. It seems like they think we need the emulator, but Green doesn't need anyone. It's worth remembering that I was one of the first to talk about this fork when their Discord didn't even have written rules. I researched everything directly from AlexIndex's repository, and he helped me a lot at the time. As a reward, Green stabbed the community in the back. And I'm not the only one saying this. Many people complain monthly about this administration's hostile behavior. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.